This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you're looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. All right, welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are the official podcast of the Red Towel Trust Collective, and we are a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. As always, make sure you're following us on all of our social media accounts. Slide on over to our YouTube channel and give us a follow over there. Subscribe and get updates anytime we release a new episode. Tyler, man, got you here with me. You ready to dive into a fun basketball and baseball heavy episode?
Yeah, let's look on the past, the season that was, and the baseball season that it can be.
Absolutely. But before we do that, we have to jump into our Red Towel wrap-up, which catches us up with all the athletics news that we've missed since we last recorded. And as always, it's brought to us by the Trent Bedding Company.
Don't forget your headboards, pillows, and your sheets. We got everything you need for a good night's sleep. Number one on the same check, best of Bowling Green.
All right. Hey! Twins, full, queen and king, mattresses for anything. Come and pick it out and we can bring it to your house. Have you sleeping real good before the weekend's out. Trent Bedding. It's just like a mattress store. Hey.
That's a catchy jingle, though. All right, so WKU baseball played Southern Illinois, just whipped up on them 21-2 in a red towel waving topper victory.
Yeah, you'd almost think that was a football score, 3 touchdowns to a safety. We just absolutely blew them out of the water. The bats came alive. For as hot as this WKU team has started, there's been some folks in the fan base that have said, man, we haven't played a tough schedule. Well, this SIU team was number 3 in the RPI in the nation coming into this game. And now this is the best start in program history. And Ryan Weedman hit the first cycle in program history in this game. He was 4 out of 6. He had 9 RBIs in just this one game. Out of the 21 runs, he was responsible for 9 of them. Just an absolutely dominant performance and what has been an absolutely dominant start to the baseball season. And I have a feeling we've got a little bit more baseball news coming up.
And you're right, UT Martin series, WKU versus UT Martin, game 1, Tops won 12-5, game 2, Tops won 7-1, and game 3, Tops won 7-2.
Yeah, I think that's the 6th series sweep for the Hilltoppers in the young season so far. 19-1 now on the season. 14 straight victories, just absolutely crushing everybody. And right now, one of the bigger complaints is, we haven't been able to watch them. They haven't been streaming or on TV very often, but that's about to change. Coming up real soon around the corner. I put that on Twitter that you're about to be able to start streaming. Pretty much every baseball game from here on out will be on ESPN Plus. So you'll be able to watch. Hopefully the Hilltoppers continue these hot ways.
WKU baseball up to number 6 in the 11.7 mid-major power ranking with an overall record of 19-1.
Yeah, I mean, they just keep on climbing. They keep winning. DBU, the perennial conference powerhouse at Dallas Baptist, they are number 3 currently. We are not far behind them at number 6. We just got to keep winning. We do have a series against them. I think it's in April when we go to Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, and play them. So we'll have a chance to take them. We also have Liberty that is in the top 25 power rankings. And then we also have Jacksonville State. So 4 Conference USA teams, 19-1 overall. Man, just really excited for what Coach Rardon and staff and that team are doing over there.
And we ain't done with baseball yet. Ryan Weidman named Conference USA Hitter of the Week.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, his dominant stats that he had just in that one game, 4 out of 6, 9 RBIs in the one game. For the week, he was 11 out of 21. He hit the first cycle in program history. He had 11 RBIs. He had a grand slam. He had 2 triples, 5 doubles, 6 runs scored, and 2 stolen bases. And all those stats were good enough to earn him that hitter of the week. So just absolutely dominating, just crushing the ball right now. Really love what I'm seeing from the baseball tops.
Well, now we're about to move on to the softball team, and they have had a hard past week. They lost 5-9 to Ole Miss. Then they had a Liberty series. They lost game 1-0-10. They lost game 2 3-10, and then game 3 was canceled due to weather.
Yeah, tough stretch there. Obviously, SEC team, Ole Miss, went down fighting, 5-9. That's a good valiant effort. And then Liberty is a really good softball team. I mean, Liberty's pretty much good across the board in all sports. They've got a lot of funds, NIL, etc. They're really good with facilities. So, I expect them to be competing for championships across the board. And they typically are. If I'm not mistaken, their softball team won the conference title last year. I think they beat us in the championship game, if I'm recalling correctly. So don't hang your head. That's a good team you lost to. Let's bounce back. We're getting into conference play now, so let's bounce back and not let that become a trend. Let's just stop it right now and get back on the win train.
Before I move on, I would like to say that Ole Miss was ranked within the top 25. I think it was like 21, maybe 22, but they're definitely in that top 25 rank, so they are a good team. Moving on to the WKU tennis, they competed against Dayton. They won 5-2 versus UT Southern. They won 7-0.
Yeah, a really good start to the season for the tennis team. They are now 12-6 overall on the season. That includes their 10-5 at home, playing at Buchanan Park with that win. So really like what I'm seeing over there. The tennis team is also rolling and playing really well right now.
Well, good, because we ain't done with them yet. Sophia Blanco became the first Hilltopper in program history to reach 100 combined singles and doubles victory.
Yeah, really impressive. Yeah, I think we've talked about Sophia a couple times on here, and then also Rachel Hermanova, also who's the all-time singles wins leader with the tennis team, but also Sophia there. That's her usual doubles partner. Those two ladies are just killing it from the 1 and 2 spot on singles, and then in doubles as well. So congratulations to Sophia. That's a lot of winning. And becoming the first Hilltopper to ever reach 100 combined victories is a huge accomplishment. And I think she's already added a couple more wins since then, but still got some season to go, conference play and conference championship. So keep on racking those wins up.
Moving on to the men's golf team, they were competing at the Seminole Intercollegiate. Gage Doyle tied for 23 at 3 over. Stephen Warren tied for 34 at 5 over. Nick Hoffman tied for 73rd at 14 over. Ralph Blankenship and Trevor Drew tied for 78th at 16 over. And the team finished overall 14th place.
Yeah, I mean, 14th, obviously not the greatest showing, not where we want to be. We want to be that top 10, top 5, top 3 team, consistently. This wasn't our best outing, just looking at the finishes. Nobody in the top 20. You want to have a couple of your guys in the top 20, maybe pushing top 10, top 5, and then your 4th and 5th scores, in the top 30 to 40, and we were in the 70s there. So not the strongest finish, but it is early in the season. Hopefully just knocking some rust off, one bad tournament, get back on that horse and hope for a better outing on the next tournament coming up.
Now we're going to move on to some Pro Tops news. Bailey Zappi signed a 1-year deal to remain with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I like this for Bailey. I think that's a much more stable home and environment that he's been in, considering his New England past and, the Mac Jones drama that he went through. And then I think he went to the Cleveland Browns for a little while and was there and played a game for them. So, as far as quality of the team that he's with, it's hard to be on a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been literally a dynasty for the last 5-6 years. Pat Mahomes is one of the better, if not the best, quarterback in the league. Sitting behind him, being behind him on the roster, in the quarterback room with him is obviously only going to help develop Bailey. Whenever, if ever, he gets an opportunity to get on the field, whether it's with Kansas City or if he ends up somewhere else, I just love to see that he's still in the NFL, still getting a chance. When he's been on the field, he's shown that he can sling the ball. And I think he's been in bad situations, in New England with a terrible offensive line. Cleveland, the Browns are just a rough organization. Now he's somewhere where he's got some weapons, good organization. If he gets a chance to get on the field, if it's by injury, by whatever, we might see Bailey Zappi, parlay himself into, a free agent starter role somewhere else if he can show out, if he gets that opportunity. So definitely congratulations to Bailey. Love to see that.
Moving on, Alexis Mead named to the Conference USA All Conference teams.
Yeah, congratulations to Alexis. That's kind of the perfect segue of the rest of our episode because we're going to be talking about basketball. But definitely congratulations to Alexis. Had a heck of a season this year, had a heck of a career, as she has now hung it up on the female basketball side. So congratulations to her.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Red Tower Wrap-Up. Moff, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Absolutely, man. Just good stuff there as always. Love talking about the baseball team. I mean, they're just absolutely killing it. Like I said, they're 19-1 right now, best start in program history. There's not enough good things you can say about it. I mean, they're number 2 in total team ERA behind Tennessee only, if I'm not mistaken. Jack Bennett is leading the nation in ERA himself with a 0.00. That's pretty good. Can't get any better than that. And now they're going to be streaming. Catch them on ESPN Plus Wednesday versus EKU. And then we go to Kennesaw State for our first conference series this weekend coming up. And that will also be on ESPN Plus. So hopefully now that we can all watch them and enjoy them even while they're on the road. And then when they come back home the week after, we can start filling up the Nick a little bit more, get out there, support the boys, and hopefully they keep this thing rolling. But, that basketball news, Alexis Mead, that kind of rolls us straight into what the main topic of the episode is going to be, and that is recapping the men's basketball season, which, as we all know by now, came to an end in the first round of the Conference USA tournament down in Huntsville. We played the first round game as a 7 seed. We played 10 seed FIU and lost that game, unfortunately, ending Hank Plona's first season as head coach. We did end the season with a 17-15 overall record. We were 8-10 in Conference USA play. We were 13-5 at home, 4-9 away. Like I mentioned, we were the 7 seed in the Conference USA tourney. We played FIU, who was the 10 seed in that first round game. We split the regular season with them. We lost to them in Miami. We beat them just the week prior before the Conference USA tournament. We beat them at home in pretty convincing fashion. And quite frankly, I feel like the last month of the season, the last 3 weeks at least of the season, every time we came on here and recapped and previewed an episode, we were talking about the Jekyll and Hyde team that we were seeing. We were just, we'd play really good on Thursday, then really bad on Saturday. It was just really inconsistent. And, we really didn't know which team was going to show up in Huntsville. I think we all thought and knew that they had the capability, they had the talent, they had the ability with all the senior leadership we had on this team that they could go down there and they could get hot like they did last year and run through some games. And the matchups, the way the tournament seedings fell, would have been favorable for that to happen. But we had to take that one game at a time. And unfortunately, the bad side of that Jekyll and Hyde came out. Just couldn't make a shot. Plain and simple. Just rims were tight, shots were tight. Made one 3-pointer in the entire game that was late by Don McHenry. Just wasn't a good game. Bad offensive game, and that's kind of been the season in a snapshot, really. Just losing to FIU. Obviously this first season for Hank Plona was marred by injuries. Tegan Moore, before the season even began, was out with the hip surgery that he was recovering from. A couple weeks into the season, he announced that he was going to redshirt and focus on his recovery to come back healthy next year, hopefully. We know Babacar Faye went down against Murray State. Julius Stedford went down in the first game versus Middle Tennessee State. Terrion Murdix, came here with Steve Lutz last year, was injured and just on the bench last year, and then re-injured his knee late in the season last year and forced him to miss all this year as well. Cade Unsold, the local recruit here from Warren Central, also was out for this entire year. Falu Jun out for the year. Christian Lander missed several games with injury. Blaze Cada missed several games with injury. This was just it was just a rough season. So many variables, so many injuries. Just a year unlike any I've ever seen in 30 plus years following college basketball, and 20 plus years following the Hilltoppers. Obviously I hope all these guys heal up wherever they end up and play next year. I think only one of those guys is out of eligibility, and Christian Lander. Hopefully the rest of those guys are healing up, getting healthy, and able to come back and return next year in some capacity. Whether that's here, whether that's somewhere else in today's transfer portal world, you just never know. But hopefully we don't see anything like this next year for Hank Plona's second season as head coach. But Tyler, what about this season? Just the way it played out, the injuries, the early exit in the Conference USA tournament. What are just your thoughts on this team as a whole?
Well, we're a week being removed from the season ending officially, and you're right. This was a very Jekyll and Hyde type season. There's a lot of games that I wish we could get back. Namely the Grand Canyon game where we lost by 2. I wish we had a better performance at Michigan, but that's also a very tough game. Michigan's probably going to go far in the NCAA tournament. But you look at some of these conference games, like the Jacksonville State game at home and at Jacksonville State. I wish we could have defended home court a little bit better. We was within 2 of beating them down there, but sorry, I was going to make sure I hit that mute button on that one. Overall, the season, it wasn't what I had envisioned. Of course, I don't think this is what anybody would have had envisioned, including all the injuries that happened even before the season even started. But then you lose Julius Thedford and Baba there. Christian Lander went down, I think, also versus Murray State too. So we had 2 players go down that game. Thankfully, one was able to come back, a player that wound up being a pretty important cog in our machine as the season progressed. But man, it's just hard to try to keep trying to come up with or use the bodies on your bench, especially when you play at very high up tempo pace like Hank likes to do. And I think they got ground down some of them days, because the Thursday Saturday is tough, especially if you play late Thursday, then you play mid afternoon or early afternoon game on Saturday. It's just a hard turnaround right there. But I think the team will get better next year. Hopefully there isn't many injuries at all. Hopefully they all recover pretty good. Hopefully the majority of them come back that can come back, because I feel like if they do, this team could be pretty dangerous. But I feel like Hank's going to learn from this. Overall, this is a great learning lesson for him and the other coaches on the staff. And I hope the players can learn something from this season too, because I feel like Western fans, we expect more, and we shouldn't have to temper expectations. But sometimes you got to learn to give a little bit whenever everything's basically stacked against you.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit. You talked about the staff and Coach Plona learning from it. I want to talk about the staff and the team that we had this year before we jump into the schedule and just how some of the things played out. But first of all, I want to talk about assistant coaches Tim McAllister and Martin Cross, two guys that were retained from Steve Lutz being here. Martin Cross has been here for a long time now. He was here during Stansbury as well. Love both of those guys, both young guys, real high character people, really good relationship builders, good recruiters. Love both those guys being still on staff. Then we added Josh Newman and Eric Murphy. Again, two experienced guys, good recruiting ties, just overall good coaches, good people that I like to have in a program. Have really enjoyed them being on the sideline. Obviously, I hope that they remain with the Tops as we move into this, kind of a pivotal and important offseason. We're probably going to need to do some retooling, just depending on how the transfer portal goes. Obviously, it giveth, it taketh away. We're probably closer to the taketh away side of that than we are the giveth. Then the players that we had, senior night versus Liberty, we did honor 13 seniors in that game. And those were Braxton Bayless, Flew John, Jalen Dorsey, Babacar Fai, Jalen Jackson, Enoch Kalambe, Blaze Cada, Christian Lander, Tyrone Marshall Jr., Don McHenry, Terrian Murdix, Leroy Odiahi, and Tyler Olden. Now, all of those guys can return except for Falu, which I believe he's going to medically retire after this season. Everything I've heard, he's not coming back. Jalen Dorsey has exhausted his eligibility. Babacar Fai will be dependent on a medical red shirt. Hank Plona has mentioned that several times in media availability. That's the route that they're going to take, and hopefully he can get that medical red shirt and come back for next season. Jalen Jackson, his eligibility is exhausted. Christian Lander is exhausted, and then Tyler Fluff Oden is also has also exhausted his eligibility. The rest of those guys have all played some junior college ball, and with the new ruling, they can come back. They can play another year. Now, whether they decide to come back or transfer or explore other options they may have, whether it's going pro overseas or jumping into job market or coaching or whatever that may be, they have options, and they're obviously going to weigh those options. But all the rest of the players can come back if they so wish and choose to be Hilltoppers or transfer if they so wish to do that as well. But as we record late Tuesday night, the 18th of March, there is no one in the transfer portal yet, at least not announced. It is also currently spring break week at WKU, so I don't know if that's factoring into that, reasoning that there isn't a portal entry yet. Maybe they want to, decompress, have some fun, be college students, spring break. And then when they come back, reconvene on campus, maybe then we start hearing some news into the, late this week, early next week would be kind of my guess of maybe when, we start seeing some of those entries, if we're going to have any. And then I want to talk about just the schedule as a whole for this season. One of the biggest complaints with last year and Coach Lutz's, first and only season here on the Hill, although it turned out to be a good season and we returned to the NCAA tournament, the biggest complaint was the schedule was just weak. There was no challenges. Conference play, we kind of knew what to expect there, but out of conference play was just, not an exciting, batch of teams, no exciting matchups, home or away. But I have to say that this year, what Coach Plona and staff put together, especially in out of conference play, I think it's hard to complain. We played Michigan, we played Grand Canyon as part of the WAC Alliance. We played Wichita State, we played UK, we played Lipscomb, who's the NCAA tournament team. We played Marshall, old rival. It was nice to have them back in Diddle, and obviously we'll return that favor next year when we go over to the Cam Henderson Center. But that was just a really tough slate of games. Conference USA remained really tough. We were the number 9 Ken Palm team, Ken Palm League, and we were the number 8 league by net rating. So just really an underrated overall league and season for Conference USA. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit now as we get into, NIT play. Just earlier tonight, we just had Jacksonville State playing at Georgia Tech in the first round of NIT, and they just absolutely blasted them by 19 points. They're supposed to be ACC, but they just got blasted by a Conference USA team. So maybe Conference USA isn't that bad at all. And I think that the metrics, Ken Palm, and the net ratings kind of show that this is a really good league. And night in and night out, it's tough. Home or away, you're going to have tough ball games every single night. And I think that just, when you have the adversity, the injuries, et cetera, that we have this year, that's going to make that, that stretch of games and that home and away, those environments, those trips, makes them even tougher. And it was a tough season, quite frankly, up and down, a lot of inconsistency. And, between the health this team battled, shooting woes at times, it was just a rough season, man. Tyler, what are your thoughts on, some of these players, the schedule, just et cetera, before we jump into some questions recapping this season?
I mean, I would really like to say thanks to all the players who used up all their eligibility. Fluff. Jalen Jackson, he came in this one year, and the dude played great defense. Dude was a hard-nosed basketball player, and I think that's awesome. I'm so thankful that he came here and played. I hate that he was assaulted by that French guy from La Tech, but it's neither here nor there anymore. Jalen Dorsey, I appreciate what he did for the team. Falou, that was great. He's been on the team for a few years. I know he didn't get to play this past season, but the things that he has done in the past. But Landers, he came in the last 2 years, played great. Kind of been one of those dependable guys that the team needed night in, night out. But I'm thankfully no one has entered the portal just yet. I'm waiting for those to come out though, because I feel like someone's going to test the water, and you can't really blame them, man. With the way the NIL is now, and all these teams, the bigger teams, kind of stealing from the smaller teams. I mean, it's going to happen. Hopefully, they just don't raid too much of us, or the players, come back to us. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the out of conference schedule we had. Well, we had 4 NCAA tournament teams on there: Lipscomb, UK, Michigan, and Grand Canyon. I mean, that's a tough non-con right there. And I appreciate what Hank was trying to do, because I mean, he really started the season off tough. Wichita State at home, then you got to go cross country, play Grand Canyon U. I mean, that's just if we were healthy and we could have won some of those games, I feel like the season would have been a completely different one. But it is what it is. You can't go back and you can't change it. We just got to keep looking forward. But Conference USA, I thought Conference USA was supposed to be a cupcake league, though. I mean, that's what I hear from some other fans. of other schools that, Conference USA is supposed to be some kind of cupcake league. But I mean, hey, all we got to do is keep on winning, and maybe one day they'll learn their lesson and shut up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of perfectly segues us into answering some questions about what our thoughts on the season were. And I get my first question to you is, what do you think the best win of the season was for Coach Plona in his first season on the Hill?
Oh gosh, just for sure. Well, I'm going for bragging rights. I'm going to say Marshall. I still hate them. There's just a good number on here, man. I mean, yes, I think for conference play, beating Liberty at their place definitely starts off conference right. But if you look at non-con, man, I don't know, because we don't typically play Lipscomb very much. Of course, we always play Murray State. It's good win there. I guess I'm going to go with Marshall for the biggest win, and maybe that's just me being selfish. But it's always a good day to be Marshall.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think my coin flip is between Marshall and Lipscomb. Marshall was kind of in the same boat as us. They had a first year coach after moving on from Dan D'Antoni, Cornelius Jackson over there. We caught them early in the season, obviously in non-con, but they were still trying to figure things out. It had them at Diddle Arena. Obviously, it was a good game. Was glad to get that victory. And then I'm kind of on the edge with Lipscomb as well. That's an NCAA tournament team. That was a team that was projected to win their league, and they did, and they got that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. I think that was a really good win. The Murray State win is up there for me just because I always like and want and expect to beat Murray State. The one that got away, Grand Canyon, we just couldn't hold on at the end. They hit a layup, right at the end of the game when we had a late lead in that one. That would be my best win of the year if we didn't, I don't want to say choke it away, but gave it away at the end. But I'm going to go with the Lipscomb win, even though I dislike Marshall. And for moonshine throwdown purposes, that one probably should be my selection. But I'm going to go with the Lipscomb just because I think they were the best team that we beat. They were a fundamentally sound team. We were still relatively healthy when we played and beat them. And even though it wasn't our best shooting night, we're still able to get that victory. And I think some of our fans forget just how good we were early in the season, especially defensively. And if we had just had a couple more guys healthy in conference play, I don't see any way that we're 8-10. I think we're, probably 11-7. Or maybe even better. I think that team can win, more than 2/3 of their conference games. But it is what it is. Give me the Lipscomb game as our best win of the year. Tyler, which game would you say was our worst loss of the year?
There's also quite a few of these. I'm going to start off with the worst morale loss, and probably the worst overall. In my opinion, will probably be Michigan State. We just got absolutely thumped up there, 112-64. We just could not get anything going. It was just a bad game. Then you turn around, you look at MTSU. At MTSU, we lost 71-57. Also, the game we lost Thedford. And the second game of the conference, we lost at FIU 85-66. I'm going to have to go with those three. And I think it sucks. It's terrible losing the middle, especially getting beat by that much. But dude, that loss to Michigan just sat with me for so long, and I was mad at how we played that game. So I'm going to have to go with Michigan State.
Yeah, the loss to Michigan was rough. Obviously, it felt like we ran into a buzzsaw. That's a tough team to play. They had a couple bigs. Dusty May in his first year as coach there, coming from FAU, and we know the run he had with the Final Four there just a couple years ago. Being up at Michigan, playing at their place, and they just couldn't miss from three. That was their best shooting night, potentially of all those players' career, but definitely their best shooting night of this year. That was a tough loss, but at the end of the day, that game didn't mean anything to our season goals. Obviously, yes, we would have loved to have gone there and beaten them and upset them and put ourselves on the map for being a team to watch out for this season, but it just wasn't in the cards. To me, I'm looking at that. You mentioned the FIU game down in Miami, the second conference game after we had beaten Liberty. We just went down there. We were just flat and just got blasted by nearly 20 at their place. It's either that game or the senior night loss to Liberty, where we lost by 20, whatever it was, on senior night, just flat, just another performance. Jekyll and Hyde. Go beat Liberty, the conference preseason. One of the two favorites. We beat them to open conference play. We go to FIU, who won 3 conference games on the year, and they beat us, in game number 2 of conference play. Then they also ended our season as well in Huntsville. So I just, it came full circle. So to me, I'm going with the FIU loss. It's not acceptable, or it's not something you can excuse or you expect to happen to lose to a team that won, only 3 conference games out of 18 all year. You don't want to be one of those 3. You definitely don't want them to beat you twice. And they did. They beat us twice. They beat us in Miami. They beat us in Huntsville. And both were just bad, inconsistent, bad shooting performances. And I know we're better than that, quite frankly. Tyler, who would you say is your breakout player of the year for the Hilltoppers?
Well, I know who I want to say, and I know who I think you're going to say. I mean, Babacar, yes, I'll back away from the mic. Last season, it seemed like he didn't produce as much, but, he comes around this season, and he looks like an all-star the very first game versus Wichita State. So he had a breakout until he got injured, but I'm going to have to go Julius Thetford. He came out. He was immediate jolt to the team. He was a very dangerous offensive weapon. He did play some defense. He's able to get in there. He was scrappy. The dude just played great for the few games he had in his freshman campaign, or the majority of his freshman campaign until he got injured down there at Murfreesboro.
Yeah, you probably are assuming correctly. I'm going to go with Julius Thetford. He made the all-freshman Conference USA team. Second year in a row, we've had an all-freshman team honoree. Last year, we had Tegan Moore. Obviously, did not play this year. But Julius, man, he was just a spark plug this year when he was healthy. He was a scorer. He could go get a bucket. He could make clutch shots, put his head down and go get a basket. Really excited for what I saw from him in year 1. Obviously, that injury, at Middle Tennessee, where he dislocated his kneecap, and then was basically questionable for the rest of the year if he could rehab and get back. And ultimately, he did not return. Obviously, we don't know what his status is going to be. You have a freshman that comes in averaging, 13, 14, 15 points a game, led us in scoring a couple of times. He's going to be potentially a hot commodity on the free agent portal market this offseason. So hopefully we can hold on to him. I'd love to have that talent coming back for year 2, fully healthy, and just helping us retool and get better for next year. But it's definitely Julius Thetford for me. I really enjoyed watching him play. Obviously hate that he didn't get to finish his freshman campaign, but still a heck of a player, and really, really enjoyed him this season. Tyler, who would you say was your season MVP, your most valuable Hilltopper this year?
Well, I feel like I know who you're going to go with. And he is a great scorer. He's a great player. He should get it, and he will get it. That nod. But I'm not going to steal your thunder twice in a row. I'm going to have to go with. I feel like Christian Lander definitely helped out the team. I mean, he there towards the end, or he actually had some high points, or he scored the most points in some games. But if his 3-point shot wasn't falling, then he would find a way to get to the rim. He finally found that extra gear. He got aggressive with it, and not only in points, but he also gave you 3.8 rebounds a game, 1.8 assists. He would come out with 1.2 steals per game, and he only averaged 1.2 turnovers per game. He was shooting 41% from the field, 80% from free throw, 34% from the 3-point line. He also averaged 26 minutes a game. So he was out there mixing it up. He was also putting in 12 points per game. But I feel like Christian Lander deserves my MVP of the season.
I like it. I don't hate it. Christian, a third-year player here at Western. He was here during Coach Stansbury, and obviously after the coaching change and Coach Lutz, and then another one with Coach Plona getting elevated to head coach. Stuck around through it. Christian, friend of the podcast, was on for an interview before last season. His father played football here, so he's a legacy player that chose to come here and create his own legacy. And he was a heck of a basketball player, man. I really enjoyed watching him play. He was always hard-nosed on defense, was just a handful. He would be in your face, pressuring you. And quite frankly, I think he had one of the prettiest shots in Diddle Arena, man. He's a quick catch and shoot. He's not taking a minute to load up. When he catches it, that thing's out of his hands. Beautiful rotation. And when he gets hot, man, he gets hot. And I've told him this, man, he's got an underrated layup package, man. When he goes to the rim, draws some contact, he can get that ball up there, a little English, and it's going in. Definitely underrated player. I think that's a good selection. But I am going with number 2, Don McHenry, the straw that stirs the drink. Broke 1,000 points in his 2 years here on the Hill. Very impressive. If you extrapolated that, he would be in the conversation for, challenging for the all-time scoring lead if he was here 4 years. You could say that he would push 2,000 plus points. But he obviously a heck of a player. Came here with Coach Plona when he was assistant for Coach Lutz. Stayed here after Lutz left, and he's just been that lead dog, that top scorer, just kind of Mr. Dude everything. And man, he was a player that when he got hot, man, I mean, he could make 3, 4, 5 baskets real quick and just fill it up and drop 30 on you on any given night. Great handles, another good layup package, good mid-range, maybe a streaky 3-point shooter, but once they started going in, man, that hoop got as big as the red towel at midcourt, man. He could fill it up quick. So I have to give it to Don. Just really enjoyed watching him play for 2 years. Again, another guy that has eligibility. Obviously we don't know what he's going to do. Assuming Coach Plona is definitely going to be back next year, I think that puts definitely some odds in our favor that he could return and play another season for, coach that he's played for and known for a long time. But he also will have options in, the free market, the transfer portal, the NIL world that we're in today. He's going to have offers to go play elsewhere and make a lot of money doing it, quite frankly, with NIL. Or if he chooses, he can go play pro somewhere. I don't necessarily think that's in the NBA or the G League per se, but he's definitely good enough to go play somewhere overseas or otherwise professionally. So give me Don McHenry. Loved watching him play for 2 years. I hope we get one more year of him. That would be amazing. But I have enjoyed the 2 years, and he is my MVP for this season. Now, this one's a tough one, and I'm glad you get to go first because you're not still on my thunder. You don't know what my grade is going to be. What grade do you give Coach Hank Plona as the first-year head coach of the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers?
Yeah, don't spare me any hard questions here. Plus, I can never steal your thunder because I don't know what your answers are. I can only imagine what they are. And I ain't a mind reader. Ask my wife. But first season, it was definitely marred, and I can't remember exactly how many different starting lineups that Coach Hank used. I know at one point it was like, I feel like 17 or 18 different starting lineups. He tried to get creative with it. He put he had his leading point scorer and leading point guard coming off the bench. How many coaches do you know that would try that, let alone once, but multiple games? But he did have an overall winning season. 13-5 at home, 4-9 away. Just had some really ugly losses at home and away. Had a lot going against him. Didn't get up to the 20 wins. Gosh, I mean, it wasn't a good season, but there was bright spots there. And I'm definitely excited to see what he's going to do in year 2. But I guess with the grades, I need to stop trying to delay it and finally land on something. And I'm going to, go with a C-.
I'm not far from you. I think if you just look at the season on paper and you do no research onto this team and kind of the way injuries, etc., happened, and you look at an 8-10 record in conference play, you look at 17-15 overall, you look at first round exit to the worst team, the 10th rated team in the conference tournament. That's how you end your season. You're probably grading this a pretty harsh grade, in the D to F range. But when you look at it through a lens of knowing the adversity that this team dealt with, all the injuries, both preseason and as the season progressed, they just kept stacking up. And these are a lot of valuable minutes and production that just kept hitting the bench and not being able to play. We saw this team when they played at their best, versus Grand Canyon, even New Mexico State and UTEP, that home swing where we just blasted New Mexico State 100 plus points. This team was tough, and defensively they were top 50 in the nation before Babacar Faye got injured. And then when that happened, that took away a big post presence. Baba was playing 30 minutes a game, giving you nearly 20 points a game. And then all of a sudden that put the onus on Blaze Keita, who was recovering from an injury himself and should have been in a backup role, and Leroy Odiahi from ODU that had played with Coach Pona before. All of a sudden, those guys had to fill in, 40 minutes a game, approximately 20 minutes each. And Blaze wasn't healthy, when he first was thrust into that role. He missed some games, and you could say ineffective and not ready for it. But as the season progressed, he got better and better. Same with Leroy. They both adapted and got better. But if we have a healthy Babacar playing, 28, 29, 30 minutes a game, and you only need those guys 4 to 6 minutes a game instead of 20, that's a completely different looking team. You can throw the ball down into Baba. He had great footwork, great post-up moves, could finish at the rim, was a really tough and aggressive rebounder on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. You talk about Tegan Moore, making the best decision for him. Stud freshman last year, kind of a bull in a china shop, reminded me of a Justin Johnson with his body build and just the way he could go get a tough basket, was developing that shot that, out to the 3-point line. Was really looking forward to his year 2 step forward, because that's usually the biggest, improvement in a player's game when they go from figuring it out freshman year to sophomore year confident. I projected him to be a starter this year, double-digit points per game, just somebody that could go get a bucket, take pressure off of Don, Julius, Babacar. So when you look at it through that lens of knowing the injuries and production that we had, and then I think you look at that the coaching award that Coach Plona was nominated for. He was a finalist, one of 16 for a first year head coach in the NCAA. I think that tells you all you need to know about Coach Plona, that people in the know, people that make those decisions, could see what he was doing and realize just how good a job he was doing. If these were Rick Stansbury coach teams with all these injuries, we might have won 3 games the rest of the year after Baba went down. I mean, he couldn't coach himself out of a wet paper sack sometimes. But Coach Plona, with the defensive intensity, the emphasis on ball movement, player movement, and just switching lineups around and just trying to limit the weaknesses that we had on the court at sometimes, which was, unavoidable with the injuries and rotations and just, playing minutes and long stretches of games. Just, it was a tough season. But I think Coach Plona coached his ass off. And I think with a healthy team, I think we're right at the top of this conference with Middle Tennessee, with Jacksonville, with Liberty. We can play with and beat any of those teams. We did beat Liberty, who won the conference championship this year. We beat them. We lost a couple of tough games to Jacksonville State. We lost a couple of tough games to Middle Tennessee, but we were in every single ball game with those teams, except for senior night versus Liberty. And, that was just kind of, spiraling us to the end of our season. But I think Coach Plona, the grade I will give him, again, we have higher expectations and standards, like you said, than 17 and 15 overall, 8 and 10 in conference, first round exit. Those are not our expectations. We're not happy with those results, but we know why and we know what happened. So I'm going to give him a C. Obviously, I think there's room for improvement this next year. And that leads us right into the next question. And the last question I have for you is, what are you looking for this off season and moving into year 2 for Coach Plona?
Sorry about that. I'm hoping that I feel like recruiting wise, Hank's going to be good. I think, well, I'm sure he knows the spot where he's going to have to recruit. And I'm sure he has talked to some of these players. He knows probably which ones are leaning towards doing what. And hopefully he really hits the recruiting trail and maybe the portal for another backup big man or two. But I'm looking for more consistency. Hopefully there won't be as many injuries in year 2 as there was in year 1. And so, you're going to know what product you're getting out there on the floor night in, night out. And we won't be short of bodies. But I'm hoping to see a big step forward. Hopefully no more Jacqueline Hyde games. Hopefully we can get that straightened out. And man, I'm really just wanting more of an offensive flow because, the last 2 games that we played in, the Liberty and the FIU game, there just wasn't much offensive play at all. And that don't harken to this whole year 1 season at all. It's just something that I thought about, but I'm really hoping to see him continue to grow as a coach, as a D1 coach, whenever he gets more of his own players in there. And that's one thing I'm excited to see is see how he will change and what he doesn't change based on what he saw from this season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think obviously we've got to let the portal play out for just what's going to happen and who is going to leave and who's going to stay. I just think there's a lot of unknown movement that is going to happen. Players are going to leave. That is undoubtedly going to happen. We know that several have already left due to eligibility that can't come back. We know that there will be several more that leave because they want to take other opportunities, and we will wish them well. Yeah, I'm right there with you. We have to see, recruiting that fills those gaps. We have to see, big men. Obviously we hope Babacar comes back, but even if not, we have to find another capable big body that can help shore up that position. And then just continuing to find scorers. It seems like the last couple of years we've had a lot of shooters and not necessarily a lot of makers, as we've seen a lot of streaky, cold, and hot shooting. Jekyll and Hyde. Last year we saw the 3-point streak end in the very first game versus Wichita. The very last game this year, we just made one, and it was a late Don McHenry 3. So, we've got some guys that can fill it up. But we don't have a lot of guys that are, upper 30% shooters and just, can fill it up every single night. We had a Dante Allen last year that went to Wyoming. Might have been a valuable shooter on this team. I think we've got to recruit some makers. Easier said than done. I know I'm speaking 101. Go find a really good athletic big like Rodney. Go find some 3-point shooters like Dante. No pressure, Coach Plona and staff. But that's what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, fielding a healthier roster. We definitely maybe took some risk on some guys that didn't pan out this past season and kind of parlayed itself into the roster limitations that we had. So, but I have full faith in Coach Plona. I think he's an excellent coach. I think he's an excellent recruiter. And I think once he has the talent on the team and on the roster, I think he can coach them up as well as anyone in the nation. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's all we got for the men's team. I want to slide over, and I do want to talk about the women's team for just a minute, because I know you've got some stats and some stuff on them. But obviously, Greg Collins and staff over there had a really good season, a much improved season. The Lady Toppers ended the season 23-9. They were 12-2 at home, 9-5 on the road. They were 13-5 in conference play, which was good enough for the 3 seed in the Conference USA tournament, where they opened against FIU as well, beat them, unlike the men were able to do. And then they played MTSU, and quite frankly had a 3.5 quarter battle with them before their Jalen Gregory just got hot in the fourth quarter and knocked down 2 or 3 big 3-pointers and opened that up for them. And unfortunately, we lost to Middle Tennessee after splitting the season series with them. And this time, I'm not going to steal your thunder because I know you've got that graphic pulled up and you're going to rattle off some of the things. But Coach Collins, absolutely had a great turnaround with this team this year. We talked about it last year, just inconsistency and not being able to close out games. This year, they were closing out games. They were stepping on people's throats. Beating Middle Tennessee for the first time in years was great. Just a really, really good season. Really took a big step forward for that program. And now we just need to continue to see that, going to next year. We've got some seniors we've got to replace. We've got to plug some holes with recruiting. Obviously, that time of the year is upon us. But Tyler, talk to me about the women's team and just how good they were this past season.
I mean, Alexis Mead and Josie Gilvins was playing lights out. Alexis Mead, she was averaging 13.7 points a game. Josie was averaging 13.1. Josie was also giving you 6.3 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists, 2.6 steals, and she was only turning the ball over 1.4 times per game. She was shooting 41.3% from the 3-point lane, while Alexis was giving you 4.4 rebounds per game, 4 assists, 2.2 steals, averaging 2.4 turnovers a game, 45.5% from the field, 87.6 from the free throw line, and then 34.1 from the 3-point lane. So, I mean, and that's just your top 2 players. Akeisha Hayes, she was also averaging 11.3, and Destiny Salary was giving you 12.4 with 4 rebounds. And this team, watching the step up from last year to this year, to me it's awesome. I definitely wasn't expecting it, but to go through some of this season, so they had 23 wins, most victory in a single season since 2017-2018 season. They scored average 72.7 points per game. That's first in Conference USA, most for Western since 2019-2020. They had a 1.15 assist turnover ratio, first in Conference USA, 41st in NCAA. They made 256 made three-pointers. That's the second most in program history. 356 total steals. That's fifth most in program history. They averaged 11.1 steals per game. That's 22nd highest average in NCAA history. They committed 457 turnovers. That is the sixth fewest in program history. They averaged 73.8 free throw percentage. That's tied for sixth best in program history. They had 16.4 assists per game. That was first in Conference USA, 34th in NCAA. Sixth most assists per game in program history, and they shot 44.5% from field goals and 33.9% from three-point land. That is the best since 2018-2019 season. I mean, this team played great. Like I said, this team had a historic season, and to see them, have that come up from last year, I mean, it makes the future look brighter for this team. I know they're losing Alexis Mead, and I think Destiny's salary, but I feel like Coach Collins is going to rebuild and reload, or at least reload this team with more athletes. So it's definitely going to come in and add to.
Yeah, really excited for what we saw over there with the Lady Toppers. Really nice to see them take that step forward. Had some solid additions to the team this year. Obviously, we need to do that again with, like you said earlier, Alexis Mead has exhausted her eligibility, and then Destiny's salary. You are correct, another senior. But I think we've got a good core of players, especially Josie Gilvin. I really expect her to take on a bigger role next season. She was kind of a triple-double and definitely a double-double threat night in, night out with her talent, and was just everywhere on the court. I look for her to be that leader next year, and I'm looking forward to Coach Collins and that program taking another step forward. And top three in the league, I think we have to be there. Middle's going to be there year in, year out. Liberty's going to be there year in, year out. We have to be right there with them. We have to be playing them tough and beating them, which we were this year. Taking another step and doing it more consistently next year is what I'm looking forward to. And I have full faith in Coach Collins. Then for my final words on this episode, definitely want to talk more about the baseball toppers. I mean, 19-1. I know we talked about it in the recap earlier, man. They are absolutely killing it. We've talked about nobody's been able to watch them unless you've went to a home game, and this early in the year when it's still kind of cold, not the greatest get out and watch baseball weather. Now it's starting to get warm middle into March. Unfortunately, they're on the road this week and this weekend, and it also is spring break. But as they come back into Bowling Green next week, hopefully they're still carrying that winning record and that winning streak that's currently at 14. Hopefully we're at 18 game and 23-1 overall, and quite frankly, we should be getting close to sniffing the top 25 in the rankings for Division I baseball. So real excited for the baseball team and just how well they're playing. And now they're going to be streaming. I know we have a lot of out of town and out of state fans that want to see that team and just what exactly Coach Rardon's doing. That indoor practice facility, one of our reporters for the Extra Point shared the updates for it and what it's looking like. They're starting to frame some walls. Still saying September, October finish line date for that to be completed, ready to move in. That's going to be a huge boost for, not only football, but baseball as well, track and field, band, a lot of our student athletes, and especially the recruiting, for all those sports, football and baseball, especially being able to have that facility at their disposal. But really looking forward to it. Obviously, this basketball season, now being behind us as far as games played, and we'll obviously update any portal news as it becomes relevant in the coming weeks. I'm sure we will start to have news trickle out as guys decide to enter the portal. Remember, that doesn't mean they're leaving just because they enter it. Guys enter and come back all the time. But I would expect many or several to enter the portal and test those options. And then we'll obviously update as any of those guys officially leave or we officially add anyone for the portal. But I had a good time recapping this, the season for the men's and women's basketball teams, and then talking about baseball. I think that's going to be, a little bit more of the focus going forward, at least for another month or two before sports close out. I think we have to talk about the baseball team. As good as they're playing, we have to, quite frankly. We just can't shut them out. I know it's not always been a main focus and for coverage for us, but that team absolutely deserves it right now. I know I'm going to make a more concerted effort to get out to the Nick and watch some games in person. It's been a couple years since I've been able to do that, just with kids and life and work and everything that goes with it. Sometimes it's tough, but this team, those student athletes, that staff deserves the support. And I'm going to get out there, and I urge anyone listening or watching on YouTube, please come out and support those Hilltoppers, man. I'm definitely looking forward to getting out there. Tyler, hit me with your final words and take us on out of here.
Yeah, because if Coach don't feel appreciated, because if he keeps staying steady and accomplished here, it's just a matter of time before another program calls him up, and coaches, like everyone else, wants to feel appreciated for the job they do. So and he definitely wanted fans to come to the game, or else he wouldn't have been instrumental in building that party deck out there that he put out there, I think last year. So people do need to start coming to the games, both baseball and softball. Baseball is kicking ass right now. That's great to see. Awesome to see everyone get out there and cheer them on. Because there's nothing better than going out and watching baseball on a nice warm spring day. Maybe talk to some people, get loud, get rowdy. The team will definitely appreciate it, and to see this historic season in person, I feel like this is going to be something that everyone will want to see and should see. Also, bronchitis sucks. Allergies is terrible. Everyone, if you got a cough that's persistent, go get that checked out, and hopefully get you some meds that's going to help you out. I've been suffering for way too long, but enough of my sickness. I apologize, everybody. I hate that the basketball season's over, but I'm thankful that the basketball season happened. Because as I said before, in my opinion, basketball is the top tier, superior sport, and man, it's a lot of fun to watch. And I need to go and make some brackets before I go to sleep tonight. But Moff, who has it better than us, man?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops, y'all.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.